Okay, so hey.
It's official now.
What?
It's official now.
Yeah, it's official. Yeah. So yeah, we said to maybe just stay a bit in silence.
Yeah,
Or
you can just sit in stillness and see what comes up.
hmm.
We're just jumping ahead to the answer of the questions.
So uh, how long did it take you to practice this? How many like years, or how long has it been until it became like effortless to maintain this state?
Yeah, so I started I started basically my spiritual search when I was 30, and then I called myself a Buddhist for about a decade, but that wasn't quite fitting perfectly either, so I was still searching. And then when I was about 40, I came across Ramana Maharshi's teachings, and then I just shifted all to practice. And then even after that, it was still a couple of years. So yeah, maybe a decade of actual like serious practice to get to really having it effortless.
Mm. Yeah, I remember in one of your videos, I heard when I think it was in one of the satsangs, recent satsang, that you actually recounted how that happened that day in which it became effortless and you started laughing.
Right in the temple, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like yeah, from
yeah.
my
It was just like you're trying something, like I don't know, you're trying to learn something, and all of a sudden you just get it, and then you can do it again, and you can just do it again
wow.
really easily, right? It's like it was just joy, really. But I get the feeling that you're there kind of already, right? Like you're kind of naturally already on that line of stillness.
Yeah, maybe, but not. It doesn't seem to me to be. Hmm, it doesn't seem to have. Uh, let me find the word. This same level of consistency that I personally perceive, like when I watch you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I watch you, I feel there is a level of almost. It's like if there would be a signal like this, when I watch you, it feels like mew, like a line.
I'm dead. I'm flatlining. Yeah.
So, so it doesn't feel that in my case it would be like that. It would be like some periods of the day in which is like more of a line, but then it can fluctuate and then go back to a line and then fluctuate. And some days can be more of fluctuations and more. Some other days can be more still. So it's not. It's like I don't know. It just almost seems super like a supernatural, like a superhero to see this this type of awareness displayed by somebody who can actually, let's say, stay in this state like this for, I assume, like days and weeks and months and years. So it seems supernatural from my perspective at this moment. But
yeah, but
who knows?
it takes someone that's pretty advanced to recognize that in someone else, right? Like the average person would see me sitting there and just think I'm an idiot sitting in a chair, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
someone that's advanced gets it. It's like, wow, this
Oh,
person
yeah,
could
yeah,
almost be levitating because I know what's going on.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the feeling. Yeah, it's like, wow. Yeah. Um, and also the thing that intrigued me when I started when I came up, uh, when I, yeah, when I found your videos, what intrigued me is that, man, I have been practicing this for maybe like intense practice from my point of view, like intense. Maybe it was not so intense from your point of view, but from my point of view, it was like a really dedicated practice to this for maybe 6 years now or 7. Um, but your material is that you were talking about this state of bliss, that you're saying like, oh, if people would knew what, like, I don't know how you phrased it, but it's like something, if people who knew what they have inside, or the capacity of like true happiness or bliss, that it's so like they can obtain it with just like using their own selves. And so it felt like somehow there was, when I would watch you, it felt like by using this state of pure awareness, is like you were taking this step back, let's say. But when you would take that step back, it would take you to this place of pure bliss or contentment or peace. Whereas in my case, what happened, like, it's like when I started to practice this, it's like when I took that step back, it was like a world of almost hell. It's like, I can't even describe this. It was not ecstasy at all. So it was not bliss. It was not. It was like a world of, mm, like so many things. I became aware of so many things, but it's like it was too much. It was too much awareness, too much to deal with on all the sides, like the dark and the light. And I sometimes found that place of pure bliss, but it would only like it would only is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's a place, it's a thing, but it's not like each time when I stay in this state I go to that pure bliss state. It's like sometimes I can just rest as awareness like this, but I can become aware of other fluctuations, other things. It's not always bliss, so then I need to to accept and continue to stay like this, even if, for example, there might be all sorts of like painful things going on which I was not aware of, or something like this. So what intrigued me is like, oh my god, like this guy is like, like how does he do it? Like to just go into that place of bliss by practicing this. And why I'm saying this is because I've talked to people um during these years, and I was speaking about this, like 7 years ago when I understood this practice and I started practicing it. I wanted to tell everybody about it, I wanted to like start teaching it to my family and to friends, and they would
Yeah.
all, what the heck?
And then when you start, no one wants to freaking listen to you anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I got to actually now, be beat some friends up with this for so much time that they started to practice it. And when they
Nice.
practiced it, they started to tell me the same things, like, oh my god, but it's like it's it's so much pain after this first layer of, how most people live in this layer of almost complete unconsciousness of what actually goes on inside of them. So when they stop thinking, they all of a sudden become aware of this new layer of a lot of like subconscious and unconscious material not processed, a lot of pain. And what I've heard from other people that were started to practice this is like, oh my god, but there is so much going on. Like and this is why most people, in my opinion, can't take up this practice, because I don't know what's up with you. Like maybe, as you said in some videos, that maybe you were or like a ripe one or something like this. Uh, but for the majority of people, when when they practice this, what I've heard is that they bump into this layer of immense subconscious and or unconscious material that was not processed. There is a lot of pain there, and they can't deal with it. So they go back to thinking. They go back to they can't process what's under the first layer. So they
Yeah.
don't go from this state of like thinking to bliss, you know? It's like this, there, for some people, there is this middle layer of complete hell. And you need to somehow, for these people, like someone needs to make its way around this hell to get to that bliss that is under the hell, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, what we're basically doing is
Like this. Huh?
we're dying before the biological body passes, right? When we do this, we're basically letting go of everything that the
Yeah.
mind is manufactured. So that's your entire identity, all your belief systems. Once it
Yeah.
all becomes unraveling,
Mm.
people freak out, right? Because it's the the depths of the lie that Maya has to spin nowadays to try to keep the reality from surfacing is very deep, right? So as deep as the delusion is, there's also this other force that is awakening, right? So if those, yeah, I mean, they're basically dying. They don't know that they're dying, but they're basically dying. And that's what they're rejecting. They don't want to die. They don't want the world to end. They don't want their story to conclude, right? So they drop it, they panic, and then they just go back into the storyline,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
fine. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with this, but when you see people suffering and you just know the cause of their suffering, then it's a little bit frustrating from this point of view to know, listen, like they have to deal with this. Like I've heard other people, like lots of people, when they start out this inquiry, there's a lot of uncomfortable stuff to go through, but you have to, right? Like you can't just, it's you're just increasing your karmic debt if you don't, if you just forget about it and just keep doubling down and just keep going on and on and on with like it all has to be faced eventually, right? So
Where
might as well do it now, I guess.
the idea is that it will be faced eventually, because
Well,
like
on your
we
deathbed, what are you gonna do? Like, right? It's you like there's no avoiding that.
well, how I see it is that mm, like I know you have been watching some of my videos, and but the way I see it is that this realm, this entire thing is like a game. It's a virtual video game. So at some point, the way I see it is that like we can't remain in the video game forever, and at some point, of course, we will wake up from the video game. And when we will wake up, like how I basically see the waking up is like retrieving back the sense of true self. Like the retrieving back is like waking up from a sleep, like slowly becoming aware of the true self, becoming aware of oneself. And that means letting go of anything that was existing here in the video game. So I don't think anyone will remain forever in a video game. At some
Well,
point,
again, we're talking about two different realms here in a way because the absolute has no time to it, right? So it's like a video game on a disc. The absolute can just throw that in at any time,
Mm-hmm.
And how much time has passed on that disk? Well, it's irrelevant, right?
It's irrelevant.
To this person, it's irrelevant. There's no such thing as time on this
Exactly.
disk. Yeah. And that's also hardwired into the programming of the game, is that the only reason why you enter this game is because you know that eventually it will end, right? Like eventually you can't be stuck in it, quote unquote. Well, you can forever, but even forever is an illusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even the time itself is an illusion. So it's like taking a hallucinogen, right? Like you know that the trip will end at some point. So
Exactly.
that's kind of what the absolute, what God has done, what
Yeah.
you have done. You've entered this realm, but you know, no matter how deluded you get and how intrigued you get and pulled into the game, you know that it will always end eventually. But here's the thing, is you just don't know when, right? Like that's the genius of the programming of the game, is that you know what's going to happen eventually, but you don't know when it's going to happen, right? So you can enter this game and have all this suffering and have all this experience, knowing fundamentally that it's unsubstantial and it's a dream that you awake from. But again, it's so convincing that, yeah, it's interesting, all right, for sure.
Well, I think it's convincing because somehow it's fueled up. You know how a computer uses the electric energy to fuel up the entire screen, to light up the screen, to light up the pixels. So it uses electric energy to basically bring the video game or movie or whatever to life. So the same way I see that this entire video game here, this reality or whatever, is using something from us. It's using, I call it awareness. So it's basically using me. It uses, how can I describe this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the awareness. But here's I think, just to say something, is that I think that you are still struggling with what the absolute is. Like you're still trying to
yeah,
describe it and put your finger on it,
maybe, yeah, yeah.
but you have to just let that go, right? It's the Tao. Like you can't perfectly describe it, right? So when you say the true absolute being, right, or how would you word it? Like your true
Uh,
self. But
yeah,
again, you're trying to I think you're still trying to conceptualize what that absolute is, right?
mm,
And it's exactly what cannot be conceptualized.
yeah, for sure it cannot be conceptualized. I even said this many times and I wrote it, but I think, but just to, before I go on and say this idea that I wanted to say right now, I want to say why I said this in the past, I mean, previously with the inner, like the awareness being like the electric energy. It's because this is, I wanted to say this because I wanted to portray how this reality, why it feels so real. It feels real because we are real. Like the awareness itself it knows itself to be the real one, but it's inserted. It's like everything we see, touch, and see here. It's fueled up like pixels on a screen, but it uses like the awareness itself. It's here. This is it. This is why it feels so real, because we are real and we know it. And this is why this feels so real, and this entire video game and any other video game that could be any other construct feels so real, because once awareness is inserted in it, it becomes it's like we are interacting with ourselves in a way. Yeah, but yeah, so this is why I said this. I don't know, what do you feel about this? What do you think about this? This sense of realness to the video game.
Yeah, the sense of realness. Well, to me, it has to do with your acting ability, because you're basically pretending that this is real, right? It's like two kids playing a game,
Mm-hmm.
but you're such a good actor that you've convinced yourself that it's all real. But actually, like, yeah, so you are the reality, which is I guess, the life energy of everything, right? So yeah, you're right in saying that the absolute is the energy or the life force that animates all of this. But again, all of this is just like a novel, right? All the pages, it's what it is the story. And it's our interaction with it that animates it, right? It's so the reading of the book is what animates it. And the more interesting it is, right, the more, like if you're reading a book that you're not really into, you know, your mind kind of wanders and you kind of miss a paragraph or whatever. But if you're really intrigued in it, you're just so involved in it, it's almost like you're there, right? So that's another brilliant part of the programming, is that the more interesting this becomes, the more real it becomes, and then the more interesting it becomes, and you just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper, right? The interest causes it to look more real, the realness causes more interest, and then you get this feedback loop. Yeah, exactly. And now we're in this place where, but now that's starting to unwind, right? With human consciousness, we're starting to realize that we're actually not the body. So this has us in a real, like I said, a kerfuffle, because yeah, we don't know. We know what we are not, but we don't know what we are yet.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, right. So we need to find out what we are. And that is exactly transcending the thought process. Because now, like I said, humans have gotten to the place, they've transcended the animal perspective, where the animals take themselves to be the body, right? Like all the animals think that the self is the biological body, whereas humans know intuitively that we're actually not the body. So that's why we introduced thought into consciousness, is because not knowing who we are yet, we still need some sort of relative form of existence, right? So I'm no longer my body, but I don't know what I am. So what the heck am I? Well, let's create a new relative form of existence, which is the I, right? And this whole thought realm emerges from that initial I thought and the creation of this whole new imaginary realm. It's fascinating.
Yeah, but I think this hints at the idea that, like, human consciousness as a whole, let's say, that there is something deeper that within human consciousness, let's say, that knows itself to be more real than anything here, let's say, and this is why it is searching for something. I think this is why it is searching, because something within knows.
Yeah, it knows what we are not, but it doesn't yet know what it is, right? So it's searching for what it is because it knows that it isn't this.
Yeah.
So it's searching, right?
This is why, in my opinion, I think if there would be a timeline to the game, you know how you said previously that maybe it's like a hallucinogen that we took, and we knew at some point it will end, the trip will end, but we didn't know when. Maybe it's the way I see it personally is like, well, I think this entire game, it already passed this high point, you know, and now it's like that period when you take this I don't know, mushroom or something, and it's that down period where, you know, like you're waking up. It's starting. It's the idea is that currently I'm personally, what I perceive is that this entire video game, not only this current construct, but the entirety of it might be on that comeback, you know. It's like I feel somehow this is why it started, like, maybe this is why self-awareness started in human consciousness, because we were something within us was waking up. It's like the trip was slowly fading off or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I don't know what to say about.
So there's actually a word for that. It's
Yeah.
hypnagogic.
Oh.
Hypnagogic. It's
Mm-hmm.
relating to the state immediately before falling asleep. So human consciousness is in the hypnagogic state of between waking and sleeping. So that's why everything seems rather fuzzy. Like you're not sure what's more real, the thoughts or the physical realm, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same state, the hypnagogic state, where you're not sure what's the waking state and what's the dream state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically where human consciousness is. And
Yeah.
then it's this transition period.
Yeah. Yeah, because if we would be like in the first part of the trip, let's say, I think we will still be the human consciousness. I mean, will be still fully immersed in this, almost like to the point of losing complete self-awareness. Like we will be completely immersed. Like I don't care who I am, so I'm fully here. But now it's like it's obvious that, and not now, but in this last, I don't know, thousands of years or something, like cycles, or. But it seems obvious that something is waking up, like human consciousness itself. There is something within that knows that okay, I'm something else. What am I? And things like this.
Yeah, there's a fork in the road. It seems like either you awaken or you go deeper. Like it doesn't seem to be like now you can just stay the way you were. It seems like you need to there's something big occurring, and either you become more awake or you become more asleep. You fall deeper into delusion or you come into truth and reality. It seems like there's a fork in experience that's coming, or that is occurring right now. This fork is occurring right now, and you and I and a small amount of people are taking the awakened route, and most people, unfortunately, are going the other. They're continuing on that path. They're verging into further delusion.
Yeah.
Now, do you obviously, because you're making videos, you feel like you need to share this, right? Like you have some desire to help with this awakening? Would that be accurate?
Oh, I have no idea why I'm sharing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, I even thought about it today. Think, okay, I'm going to speak with Roy. Like what? I even crossed my mind today. I remember I crossed my mind, like, what the heck am I doing? Like, why am I even writing all of these things and publishing? And really, there is no known agenda. Like, really, I have no freaking idea why I'm doing
But
this.
don't you feel that it's almost natural for truth to want to be revealed? Like truth seems to want to reveal itself through you in a way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
just
a
a
good.
natural unfolding of it. Like there isn't a conscious thought, I need to make the world a better place and all this stuff. But it's just like I've coming to these truths and somehow they need to be expressed, right?
Yeah, it feels like when oh my God, it feels like when I understand a thing, it's like it feels like something is exploding within me. I can't contain it. It's like it it's too much. It itself wants to explode out. It's like without my, it's nothing that I could stand against or do something to withhold it, because it feels like, oh my God, this needs to be put out there. Maybe somebody would hear it, I don't know, with a word or something would be clicking in a person's mind or something. It's just what it feels like for me. It feels like it's beyond my will, what I've done in the past, and how really I really feels like I fucked myself up is that I tried to not to do this. It's like I tried, oh no, who I am to share. No, this is like nonsense. Who would understand it and stuff like this. And that's when I see myself becoming like more and more depressed or more and more like, yeah. So then
No, I think it's obvious that this is like your dharma, right? Like
mm,
you are a radiant being. Like you radiate. I could tell right away as soon as I watched your first video, I could tell that you were expressing this just in your own beingness, right? You don't even have to really say anything. I can see it in your eyes.
mm,
Um, so just be that, I guess. Like I think you almost need to start instructing rather than just describing. You know what I mean? Like so far, you're always trying to, like in your videos, you're trying to explain or find a better metaphor
mhm.
for your experience,
Mm,
but maybe just accept your experience for what it is and just maybe, I don't know, this is just coming to me, maybe move towards more like instruction or teaching, right? Like this is where I am and this is how I got here, rather than trying to explain where you are all the time. You see what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
just accept that you are this radiant being and you are awakening and all this is happening, and that you you can't really, you could be making videos with new metaphors for probably 5 more years, right? Like, but at some point you just have to go, okay, well, I can't explain it. That's okay, but I can still be it, right?
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm just babbling, but I think
No,
maybe you're at the point
like,
where you just need to drop trying to explain what you're going through and just embody it.
mm, mm. Okay, yeah. So this is a actually quite deep thing for me because, um, hmm, like I said previously, that I've observed how there is this thing within me that wants to like come out and express, and tried to stop it all my life in a way because I was afraid of it. Um,
But now you've got like you're starting to, like, I'm here and my peeps are here. So you're starting to maybe develop a community where you can actually talk to people about this stuff, because
mhm.
I think you're kind of like me. You don't give a rat's ass about talking about normal stuff. Like it's
Yeah,
just, I don't care about talking very
yeah,
much about the relative realm.
yeah, yeah, man. Like even in the last, like even in the last days, I was constantly thinking like, oh my god, what the heck am I doing? Like, like really, if I would really be honest, I find zero interest. Like, I never found an interest about this world. Like,
Yeah.
not never, man. Like, there was never an interest, but it's like I felt so alone that I had to develop this persona, that I had to be friendly. I had to talk, like chit chat, and things like that. Be interested. But my thing is like, oh my god, all my life, I think since I was a child, if I could choose, I would just want to freaking think about existence, talk with like this type
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
I care less about, I don't know, going to the. I don't know. It feels like I can't even understand what's going on in this world. I don't know why people are freaking doing the same thing day by day, year by year. It's the same thing. I can't comprehend this.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I know. I know. It's even difficult for me to operate in this world sometimes. Like I can't follow instructions if it's got more than 3 stages to it. Like I'm reading an instructional manual and I just end up like I can't even comprehend it. And it's simple instructions, like, but I'll take that trade any day because I understand the big picture, right? Like I can I don't have a problem not understanding the relative realm if I understand the absolute. Like if that's a trade-off, I'll take that trade all day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, it's not coincidence that all of this is happening. Like in the last, since I've been in this place, especially, more and more people have come out and said, "Hey, I've been watching your stuff for like years," and now there's this small community starting to build up. So yeah, I really think that this non-conceptuality thing, I think the best way to help, if we're all kind of in alignment where that we want to express the truth and there's a way to do it. From my perspective, I want to make non-conceptuality an actual thing, right? I'm hesitant to call it a new religion. I'm hesitant to call it a science, but it's something. And I think if we had people saying that it's something and this is what I'm doing, like I'm a non-conceptualist, right? Then you can talk about it with other people. Like I don't, it sounds like I'm trying to drum up a following or something, but it isn't that at all. I just think that I feel very strongly that this non-conceptuality is a thing, right? It's a very powerful way of showing the path, and I hope that I can get a community that's kind of centered around it. Does that make sense? Like I don't want to, force you, oh, now you need to call yourself a non-conceptualist or anything like that. But if we're going to have a community, it has to be a community around something, right? And I don't want it to be around me, right? Like it's not about Roy Dopson, but it's about the path that gets to the stillness.
Yeah. Okay. So
So what I'm talking about here is basically a new religion, right? Like right up there with Hinduism, and like it's exciting. Like it really is, if you can accept that this is actually happening, and that this is profound stuff, and it very well could be that this stuff is right up there with the Tao Te Ching, and it's very exciting.
so for sure, the way I perceived the information that you managed to lay out, it was for sure one of the most clear, and it's difficult because it's more than clear. It's it's very precise, very clear. One of the most clear things I ever found, actually.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, right? And other people have said it. So I, like, me being the discoverer of this, or not necessarily the creator, but I can't help but agree. Like it really is one of the great spiritual texts out there. And I just think that it should be like, I just want more people to get into it, because it really is profound. Like, and I don't take any credit for it. Like it's coming through me, but it's nothing to do with Roy Dopson.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I think the clarity, it's even like it seems quite intense, let's call it, in the writings themselves. Like it feels like each word or each sentence is, from my point of view, amazingly precise. It's like each sentence, each phrase, it's like a, I don't know.
Like a scalpel or a laser.
Yeah, I even admired, like you sent me this document like a theory of enlightenment. You
Right,
sent
yeah.
like 2 weeks ago, and I even admire, like, oh my god, I couldn't write this clear. You know, each sentence was so precise and really so clear into really telling things exactly how they are. Like, I don't imagine, like, if somebody really wants to freaking come out of all of this, find a way out, find truth, and reading this document, it's like, it's so, here it is, like, it's like ABCs, like learning to read again, something that you forgot or something like this. Is like learning to reread truth in a way. This is so simple. Yeah. So
Well,
you're
that's
doing
it's
this. So
it's so great that to get affirmation like this, like, because me, it's been just me for quite a while,
yeah, I
and it
understand.
seems like things that reach this deeply need to grow really deep roots first, I think. Uh, it needs a long gestation period before it starts sprouting, because it's just been with me really for almost a decade, and now finally I think it's starting to sprout. Right? It's been gestizing in consciousness for this long now, and now it's finally time for it to start growing. And I don't know how to encourage people like you that see it the same way as me to just start going out and saying, "Hey, look at this thing." You know, I don't want to seem like I'm forcing people or directing people to do something that they don't want to do, but I really do think that this information should be expressed, and it should keep growing. Right? So that's kind of why I want to develop this sangha, this group of non-conceptualists, I guess, right? To start making it an actual thing that people can actually talk about. Yeah.
So when you say non-conceptualism,
Well, that's what I call the whole system, right? So I
mhm,
call the
okay.
new religion, I call it non-conceptuality, because to me that almost the title itself almost explains exactly what it is, right, in the title, right? So that would include the theory of enlightenment, right? And the one-step path, which would be the actual practice. So the practice is the one-step path, right? Where you just, right, you transcend the teaching itself into beingness. And then I guess the teaching could be, the theory of enlightenment. That could be the teaching. And then the practice would be the one-step path. And that in a labeled as something is non-conceptuality. So non-conceptuality would be the teaching, which would be the theory of enlightenment, and the practice, which would be the one-step path. So that's what non-conceptuality is, basically. The teaching and the practice rolled into one. But again, the practice is the same that it's been for millennia, right? It's just meditation. Basically, the practice basically is just, I could just say, well, it's meditation, right? Like, but the path that it's taking to lead people to that, the finger is different, right? The finger, I think, is very precise. It's like a laser pointer. It's not even a finger anymore. It's a laser pointer, right? Like the teaching points directly to the practice.
Yeah. It feels like, yeah, exactly. When I read your material, it feels like one and the same, the practice and the teaching. It feels,
yes, exactly. The teaching basically dissolves into the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Peter, just yesterday, he said he was in he feels the same. I don't know if you watched that video of when you and I were talking about this. Yeah.
The first part, I think I need to watch the second part. The first part, I've watched it.
Yeah, okay. So he feels the same way as you, right? He's like, well, this is one of the greatest spiritual texts of all time, and I can't believe that people can't notice it. And he said he was in a coffee shop a few days ago, And he was just basically sitting there in samadhi, right? Like just sitting there in beingness, having a coffee, just sitting there. And he said about an hour later, he kind of looked up and he said that there were people staring at him, right? Like, because it's so weird to just see someone in their natural state. That is how unnatural humanity is now, is that because someone's sitting in their natural state of just being happy without looking at a phone or reading something or listening to music or typing on their computer.
Oh yeah,
That's foreign. It's so foreign that people look at it and think it's strange.
yeah.
Like
Oh my God.
this is how fucked up things are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you realize how fucked things are, because how is it strange that a guy's just sitting there happy? Like, I think it's strange that everyone's looking at a phone, you know?
Mm. Yeah, people constantly seek ways to divert their awareness. It's like it's like an addiction. They are addicted not necessarily to a screen, but to things that makes their mind like this.
Yeah.
Anything could move their mind like this.
Like I remember being in the same situation as everyone, and you can just see this with everyone. Like every single moment there's stillness, they need to fill it with something.
Yeah.
That's the constant. Every time, every day when someone wakes up, they're thinking about shit to do. They're thinking about stuff to fill every single last second of stillness with something, either a thought or an action, right? You can't just sit in a chair. You got to sit in a chair and then do something. So again, it's so ironic that we're so close, right? Like instead of looking at a screen or doing something to fill that space, you just sit in a chair and go into the space. That's the difference between delusion and complete enlightenment. It's just this subtle little turning right instead of turning left. You've been turning left all the time. Now you just turn right and just sit in a chair and be in the stillness, go right into the stillness, right through everything. And you realize your enlightenment. You know, and again, when people go through these dark periods, it's not like you're literally battling a demon or something. Like they're all just thoughts, right? So again, that's an indication of how we've been fooled by Maya to believe that thoughts are substantial, right? That thoughts have weight and gravity and can pull us and push us around. But when you start going through this sort of process, you just realize that that's all nonsense. Like those thoughts don't have any energy in and of themselves until we give it to them, right? So as difficult as it is, they need to go through this dark night of the soul or whatever all the negative stuff is that keeps coming up. You just need to get through it. And it's not that, it's all your thoughts that's projecting all this interior strife and anxiety, right? Like it's just all thoughts, and we just accept that they're there and there's nothing we can do about them. It's just so simple.
Yeah, it sounds simple.
It sounds simple, but when you start doing it, it's what's complex is the deprogramming. You see what I mean, right? Like the unwinding of this looks complicated because the process in which it was built up is complicated. You see what I mean, right? Like the way in which this has all been built upon itself in kind of like an evolutionary series type of way, it's very complicated and convoluted and self-referential. But so the unwinding of it will be the opposite of that. So it'll seem complicated and difficult and everything, but it really isn't, right? It doesn't really take any effort to let things go. It's exactly a not doing.
Okay, so it crossed my mind to maybe add now this thing that how it happened for me and what it made it easier, or let's say what it made it worthy to continue doing this process is that, from my experience, the first time when I tried this, I don't know if I could call it try it or did it or whatever, but I just for a moment, like, everything dropped, like there was no mind, it was quiet, like for some seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but in that moment, like, I remember even now, is like I I felt like, oh my god, like I felt something indescribable, something that was so true, so real, so impossible to describe, like the enormity of it, that I felt like that changed my whole life. Like I knew that whatever it takes, if I need to, like, I don't know what, if I need to go to this entire dark night of the soul or whatever it takes to reach that.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like if people would just do this process, just just a bit, just until they feel themselves, they feel, because that's their true nature, is nothing else than their own selves, until they feel that. Because once you feel that, it's like you can't go back, you can't, it's like
No,
more than anything you could ever find in this
it
world.
has to be recognized though, right? Like it's there all the time between the thoughts, that space, that quiet space that's the
Oh, for sure.
absolute and God and divinity and all that stuff. It just needs to be recognized.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember showing up. I remember a lady, I was talking to a lady once and I was trying to explain it to her and I just went, so it's this. And she just started, her eyes lit up and she just started giggling, like, because it's like, oh my God, like there's peace there. And if there's peace there, then maybe it's always there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to just remind people to just keep going inward rather than outward. Just go inward rather than outward.
Mm-hmm.
So, how is this? So, would you say that after 6 years of this, that your life has dramatically changed? Hey?
Oh, for sure. Now, oh, for sure. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like,
Like, do you have
I
a
don't.
do you have a regular, would you say a regular meditation or a spiritual practice at all? Or is it just more flowing? Like,
Um, up until up until February this year, there was maybe 3 years of, like, really daily, maybe even sometimes even 6 hours per day. Some other days maybe just 3 hours. But there was a constant practice up
mhm,
until February this year. After February this year, it became a bit more fluid. Uh,
mhm.
yeah, yeah. But it's still like, it's not a practice anymore, because it's not something that I need to force myself to do it, because this is how it was until February this year. But now it's like, this is all I need. This is all I want. It's like I don't need to have a practice, because this has to be my life. It's like
Yeah.
it's like now it's becoming my life. It's not only that I do, because in the past I would do, like, maybe 1 or 2 hours in the morning and 1 or 2 hours before sleeping. So it was like beginning of the day and end of the day. But now it's like, and also during the day, because I all the time I try to
You'd
do
be, yeah,
it.
you would remind you, you'd be remembered to do it during the day, not just, well, I'm going to meditate for 1 hour
Yeah.
now, and then I'm just going to go back into the world. Yeah.
No, it was like, I always, all these years I try to do it during the day, but it's like at the beginning it was so hard. Like, it's like I would be a bit of awake, and then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up hours later. Oh my God,
Yeah.
where I was.
Yeah.
And then,
It's like, where
yeah,
the hell have I been the last few 3 hours? Like
but it was,
I used to berate myself. I'm like, you've been like unconscious for how long now, you ass, you know, like, but you still need to forgive yourself for that too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. By the way, I related when I heard you in a satsang say that you kind of like you were a bit hard on yourself with this practice, and I related so much because man, I went like I was really hard on myself with this practice,
Yeah.
like yeah, and then I understood that that was not all right also, because I made it so hard that I kind of like my psyche and my body was so much like condemning myself because I didn't was present enough, and that was not all right. So then I started to like let loose, and then I understood that, oh my god, like this does not have to be an effort. I really love this. This is my life. Like it's not. Why did I try to make it like before? I didn't understood. Yeah, because now it just feels like. Um, for example, I can give a concrete example. If I walk outside and I, let's say, do some anything, some work outside in the, I don't know, with the garden here or whatever. If I am in my mind and I'm unconscious, it's like I don't pay attention to anything. I don't see the plants, I don't see the trees, I don't hear the birds. It's like I only hear my own thoughts. It's like I miss so much of what happens to me and outside of me. And by doing this practice and having stillness in my mind and awareness, it's like, oh my God, it's like a whole new world opens up. I so many things open up. Like I hear the birds, I see the colors more intensely, I the sounds feel different. Like why wouldn't I want to be in this state rather than be in that constant mental, no. So it's not like practice anymore, it's like normality. And as much as I can, I try to be in this normal natural state of being. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it stops being a chore or something difficult or something that I should do when it becomes your preferred state, right? But it's a catch-22 in a way, because if you don't get to that effortless, blissful part, you'll it'll still remain a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll seem like something, well, I should do this, like practicing the piano if you don't really like playing piano. But once that magical barrier you break through that magical, like a sound barrier or something, going faster than the speed of sound, where it becomes effortless and you get to that bliss, then the psyche will remember that. It's like, wow, that was really good shit, let's have more of that, right? Rather than like all of this stuff, right? So yeah, that's an important place in a practice when it gets to that. Oh, finally, like when I giggled in the yeah, in the temple there, it's very important, because your consciousness will naturally seek that out because it was so good. So it'll keep remembering, and the more you do it, it'll remember more, and it'll keep getting easier
Exactly.
and easier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's important. It just seems like that all of those steps that you and I and so many other spiritual practitioners have done is important. Like it is important to start off with a very specific, like spiritual practice, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then that moves, that just expands in time and energy, and then all of a sudden it's your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's happening, like we're half here and we're half in this
Mm-hmm.
physical realm, and we're half in the mental realm, and that's why you can't have the full experience of this realm, because it's split in two. Your awareness is diverted, right? It's you're seeing half of both. You're getting half of the physical realm and half of the mental realm, and it's kind of incomplete. Like it doesn't, it's not fulfilling, right? Half of two things is not fulfilling. Yeah. But the next step, and this is the trippy part, is that even though so the next step is to even recognize that the physical realm itself is also illusion, and then to pull attention away from the physical realm too, right? Like that's, I don't think, see, that's why I think that most of Buddhism and Zen, they don't go as far as they could, as far as they should. And that's why when I was a Buddhist, I was still searching. Because yes, the Zen and Buddhism talks about transcending thought, but it doesn't really talk about transcending the physical world too. And that's the final step, right? Is to really recognize that even your physical experiences are also illusory, right? So in a way, the birds singing and all of the sensations of gardening, let's say, even that kind of fades to the periphery, and you're grounded in the beingness, right? So what comes more prevalent is the stillness, right? The mona, that becomes more prevalent, and even physical sensations become kind of what's happening in the background.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so on this, when I personally go into that state of really completely detaching, even from the physical, what happens, I don't know if this is the same for you or for others, but what happens for me is that, man, is like, I get a bit frustrated because it's like I feel myself behind a glass, you know. It's just the best metaphor to describe. It's like, um, just, by the way, I wanted to tell you this. It's just, I just know when I relax myself enough, I get to this state where I can somehow feel my true self, but not mentally. And it's like I can really perceive it somehow. I can know myself, my true self, and I'm asleep. And I know this. So right now, when I talk to you, I'm asleep, and I can actually perceive myself if I relax. But the idea is that if I go to that state, I don't like it in a way, because I feel it frustrates me, because I feel like it's like, what the heck is happening? What is this realm? It's like, the physical, I can see it's just an illusion, it's just pixels on a screen, and I don't understand, why am I here, why am I sleeping, why is this thing happening? And so for me it feels a bit, at this moment, I mean, it still feels confusing a bit when I detach myself like that. I can
Right.
not,
You see what's happening, right, is that the mind is getting in there and it's trying
oh,
to understand it, right? Like
yeah.
after the fact, like when you're in that state where you're detached even from the physical realm, nothing needs to be explained or understood, right? But after the fact, when the mind comes back in, that's when you get, well, what was that? And well, you know,
Mhm.
like the frustration. The frustration is probably because the mind can't understand it. The mind can't describe it, right? So, and that's why I got it. That's why you're making all these videos with new metaphors all the time, right? Is
Mhm.
because, and this is why I said this earlier, is that I think you need to let that go. You need to let go of trying to understand it and
Mhm.
trying, because that's your frustration, right? Is the mind keeps coming in and keeps
It's
trying to
also, it's
explain
also
it or
um,
describe it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's also that. I think the mind comes in, but it's also like, it's like a it's like an energetic frustration, or it's like a something that comes before the thought. It's like I find myself there in that. It's not knowing. It's like beingness. Let's say I know I am that, but I can't. But that's it, Roy. But by the way, I know I am this being that is now asleep, and is viewing all of this, but it's like it's not enough in a way for me to just, oh, okay, I know I'm that being. It's just I feel that I need to remember myself, but truly it's not like, okay, it's okay, I know I am this being that sleeps and now with all of this and I can chill now. No, it's like I need to remember myself truly, like really. I don't know. This is what has been on my mind since I was a child. Like I really need to remember myself. Like truly remember, truly know. Oh, okay, so this was it. So then whatever. I'll see what
So,
else.
so you have to in order to get to that level that you're searching for, you need to transcend even the physical sensations. Like
Mhm.
it's rough. Like I get it, right? It's it's because then you're getting to the nothing, right? Like so,
Yeah.
well, what is it, right? So then you're getting to the nothing, and that's why I tried to fix that whole nothing problem, is because when you're getting to these absolute states of just complete self-sufficiency and just complete oneness, then that frustration will come in, or almost fear that, well, it's nothing. Like, how can it be? How can I be nothing? Right. So again, it's not. I feel like in some ways I'm still attached as well to the physical realm, not to the mental realm. I'm pretty much transcended all that. But I'm still a very physical person. Like I love moving and being physical and working out and stuff. But I'm wondering even if sometimes that is just more attachment to the physical realm, right? So as rough as it is, in order for you to finally so the understanding of yourself is now to the point of being, right? So it's not an intellectual understanding. Your understanding is the beingness itself, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then when you try to explain that or express it, then you make videos with, analogies and stuff. But I think if you can shift your practice to actually detaching from physical sensations as well, and be okay with not understanding it, like being okay with just having
Mhm.
that experience and letting it go, right?
Mhm.
Having that experience of the absolute and the stillness and the bliss that you know, and then just letting go of trying to explain it, right? Or trying to understand it, because like when you say you want to understand your true self, that can't be an intellectual thing, can it? Right?
No, it's
Yeah.
a being.
It's an experience. It's a
Yeah.
beingness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still expressing your beingness in the physical realm. But
Well, yeah.
yeah, and you like it. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Like
Yeah.
again, if you're grooving with the whole physical realm and you want to stay here, like I feel that this transition period is that people like you and I, even if we don't reach full enlightenment, we will remain in the physical realm. Like we will remain biological, physical beings. But where most of humanity is going is they're going away from that. The fork in the road takes them to the digital realm, right, and into a lesser physical experience. So even if you or I don't reach full enlightenment, I believe that the ability to remain focused on the physical realm will have us go to some sort of a paradise or a heaven realm. It might be a different planet or whatever. So it's still all good, but I'm thinking that, with full enlightenment, it requires a little bit something more. Like it requires another level of detachment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be home. It has to be the real. This, like for me at least, I don't know. like maybe for you as well or others, but for me, like I know, like it would be torture to remain. Oh my god, it would be torture to remain in the video game. What the heck? Why would I want to remain in a video game? Like no, it has to be home. But um,
But that
I,
home is the nothingness, right? Like, or
yeah,
potential or whatever. Like you need to go into the quote unquote, I hate the word nothingness because it doesn't apply,
I,
but you have to
I,
go to the potential, right? Like it's potential. It's not anything physical, it's not anything mental. So it's just you. And in that state, just you is also just me, right? So there's just one. There's just you. There's awareness with no content. That's the best way I can describe it. Basically, is awareness without content.
I think it's best because you know I when I was in I stayed many times in this state of awareness with no content,
Yeah.
and you know, since I heard about this concept of we are all one and stuff like this, it's not like I never truly understood it, because when I stay in that state, for sure there is only awareness. For sure there is no thought, no impression, no way to know anything. So it's
Mhm.
only pure awareness.
Yeah.
But but in the same way in which there is no thought that would tell me this is you, there is no thought that would tell me this thing is also another being. Like it's like I can't know. If I would be truly honest, I wouldn't be able to say for sure if that awareness means that one as well. Like I can't say this honestly for myself. Like I don't know what I don't have a I haven't decided if I think we are all one or not. Like for me, this is not like maybe we are, maybe we aren't, but I have no idea. So I didn't had this. For example, you know how there I've heard many people like saying that, oh my god, I experience oneness and we are all one, and I didn't had that experience yet, and maybe I will, but I didn't had that experience where I felt like I'm one with everything. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
you don't have like either have I really, because I've never really recognized that the separation was real to begin with, right? So if you there's a sense of unity, there's a symbiosis and a unity within nature, right? That humanity doesn't have. So that thought experiment of mine where you enter a room but there's no thoughts, well then that's all one thing, isn't there? Like if you're somewhere and there's no thoughts saying chair or Roy or Denisa, is it Denisa or Denisa?
Both, I think. Denisa.
Both. Okay.
In
But you see what I
Romanian,
mean? Like if you're present in the three-dimensional realm and there's no words, then that is a state of unity, right? Because there's no separate objects. Like there literally is no spoon if the word spoon doesn't come into consciousness.
yeah, there are no mental separate.
Yeah, there's no
Con-
separate, obviously that's all just
yeah,
superimposed over reality, right?
mhm,
Over the physical realm is this separate objects. So
yeah,
you're already in this level of unity, so that's why you don't know not unity. So therefore the unity that you experience is natural. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. It makes sense, and
Yeah,
mhm.
because you're so present physically and that you're not saying tree or bird or whatever, then that's all just one thing, right? That's just a unified experience. But what I'm saying that even if you even get past the physical sensations,
Mm.
there's another level of unity, and that is awareness without content.
Mhm.
And that the awareness that's coming through your eyes is the same awareness that's coming through my eyes, but we don't need the eyes.
And by the way, I personally, I have very much, I almost love the concept of nothing and of the void. Like for me, it's like when I hear
Oh,
nothing or
it's
void,
not scary for you to
oh
think
my
about
God,
it.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of the, it's like my heart starts to like, like when I hear about nothing and the void, it's like, oh my God, like it's completely misunderstood. It's nothing, it's not
Yeah,
nothing.
it's not a lack at all.
Not
It's the exact
no,
opposite of
it's not
lack. It's complete potential for everything to exist. That's
yeah,
not a lack, that's potential,
no.
right? Yeah.
No, it's not a lack at all. So and the void, oh my God, like I love only when I think about it, and it's just it's I don't know why. Like and I can remember like I just remember now the first time when I understood my nothingness. Oh my God, it was beautiful. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
was
Because that's the whole purpose of life. Like, that's the reason for all of this is to discover what you just discovered. So of course you're going to be like blown away, right? Like
no, but
it's
it's
completely
one of the
natural to just be
yeah,
completely overwhelmed by finally realizing the purpose of all this.
which I have no idea what it is. By the way, I have no idea what the purpose of it
Sure
is.
you do. That's why you made these videos about,
No, but my
using the
mind,
same analogies. Well, you
yeah, but my
you
mind doesn't
understand
know
it,
it.
but you can't perfectly describe it, right? So the attempt to perfectly describe your understanding comes out in these analogies and these videos that you make. And
Yeah,
same with
sometimes.
me.
Hmm. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I could describe it as my mind doesn't understand it, but something within me knows it, and it's something like I could describe it as there is something within me that tries to teach my mind in a way about how things are and what reality is. And this is how these analogies come and these things come because it's like I have an inner teacher that tries to constantly teach my mind being like this child or something, so how things are, because my mind is
Yeah.
completely blank. It's completely my mind is completely ignorant. Like the human mind here, it's like it was ignorant. It had no clue about anything. So
Yeah, it's just providing a narrative. It's just telling a story.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that the analogy that you used of stillness, like awareness can be still or it can be
Mhm.
moving,
Yeah.
that's as close as you're going to get. Like really, like that's a perfect analogy, right? Like you're using two words,
Mhm.
stillness and movement. Well,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can't get more precise than freaking two words, can you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to give it like you got to just rest in like, okay, well, I've basically narrowed it down as closely as I can. And you have. Like
Mhm.
that's it. Like it's either stillness or it's movement.
Mhm.
That's basically it.
And it's so simple. Yeah.
It's so
Mhm.
simple. So, but yet the mind keeps wanting, well, maybe I can get a better analogy. Maybe I can explain it better. But
Mhm.
you've already explained it
Mhm.
as succinctly as you can. So this is why I think your next step is probably to just go
Mhm.
on to maybe teaching more than explaining, right? Like you haven't really, uh, yeah, I think that you should be showing people the way.
Mhm.
Just me, like it just seems to me like you're at the place where your next stage is
Mhm.
to not
Mhm.
try to understand it or describe it anymore, but to really embody it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
how do you experience physicality, Roy, when you manage to stay like in this pure awareness, in this stillness, like that signal, you manage to hold that signal almost all the time. So how do you experience, like, does the experience seem different for you when, if you look in the past, let's say, if you can remember from years ago when you didn't have this mental like stillness, or and like how is it to interact with basic things like touching an object, hearing sounds, like is it different, or is it, how do you experience this?
So now there's an also. So before there was just sensations, but I wasn't aware of that which was sensing them. So now I'm aware of that which is sensing the senses.
Wow.
Again, it's very much like reading a book. This is all kind of, it could be text on a page, and I'm just reading it, and the sensations are whatever that text is telling me to feel at that time. So again, way back you used the word stepping back, right? And that's what I've always used, is you take a frame of reference that's one step back, if that makes sense. So yeah, so there's the witness of the content now, whereas before there was just content, but now I'm aware of the awareness in which all of that takes place. Right? So it's almost like an and. So there's sensations, and also I'm aware of the source, the substrate on which those sensations arise. Yeah, so the sensations, they're still there, but they don't have as much pull or push as they used to. Yeah. Yeah, so there's still sensations, but I'm less affected by them. You're not running from some or running to some, right? You're just reading the text as it presents itself. And I find that I'm moving towards simpler and simpler things. Like when I was younger, I liked like downhill skiing, and I was playing lots of sports and stuff. So I really enjoyed sensations, right? I've really enjoyed this physical body of mine. But now it seems like that's kind of fading. Well, I guess with age too, because but the interest in all of those physical experiences is also starting to wane, right? Like I'm not so interested in having these physical experiences anymore. Any experiences, to be honest. Like I'm not searching for new novel experiences. I kind of just want them to run down, obviously, to run their course, and to not, because I'm more interested in the experiencer, right, than the experiences. So that was maybe a long-winded answer, but yeah, the physical realm is still here, but it's more in the periphery.
For me, sometimes when I sit like this in stillness, and it's like the objects, the entire environment is like moves and morphs. It's like nothing so solid anymore. This is why I've asked, because, and this is okay actually. I don't feel like I'm not freaked out or anything, but I actually like it. But it's like it changes. So I observed how by stealing my awareness more and more, it's like the first level is like it's becoming almost like a when you take mushrooms or something like that. It becomes quite, I don't know, wavy, or sometimes
Less subjective,
it's still subjective, yeah.
but
And
less subjective. Like
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. And then if I steal my awareness more and more and more, it becomes almost like complete artificial. It's like, oh
yeah,
my, what the heck? So it's interesting. There, I have observed the levels. So the first level, which I actually like somehow to see these levels, because the first level, when I steal my awareness, I perceive this level of things starting to become animated. So it's like almost like you can feel the soul, let's say, the 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 life in the things around. So for example, objects now, even in my daily life now, like everything seems alive, like this object, like everything is like it has personality, and but everything seems alive without me wanting. Like now I can't stop it. It's like everything seems alive. So this is the first level. Then if I move my awareness even my awareness even more, then it becomes this like almost like pixels on the screen. It's like it loses that sense of life, and it becomes like, oh my
yeah.
god, it's artificial.
No, this is good because
Mhm. But it's interesting to see the levels for me.
so that deeper level, so it from the first level, which is a little bit more superficial, it may appear as though physical objects in and of themselves have life. But from
Mhm.
that second perspective, you realize that actually, even this body doesn't really have consciousness, right? There isn't consciousness to it, there's consciousness coming through it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like there's a very subtle distinction there.
Yeah, I understand.
But
Hmm. Hmm.
there, all of this is inanimate, right? It's just the life force of our attention brings it animation. So yes, there is awareness coming through everything, but
Yeah,
it's not in the thing.
yeah,
See what I
exactly.
mean? It's the
Exactly.
thing itself does not contain any
Yeah.
consciousness or awareness, but
Hmm.
awareness is coming through that thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's that second level.
Yeah.
So from that level, it almost switches back to yes, everything is inanimate. Like there is no life to this in and
Hmm.
of itself, and
Hmm.
it's my attention that
Hmm.
breathes life into it. And
Hmm.
then from that superficial level, it seems as though the body itself has sovereignty and has consciousness separate from everything else. But yeah, you get what I'm saying without me going over it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. The way I see it is like there is awareness, which we spoke at the beginning, and then there is consciousness. And I make a distinction between these two. Like consciousness, I see it like awareness in movement. You know,
Yes.
yeah,
You
awareness in
see,
movement.
you're stealing stuff from me. I know you are. or
Ev-
it's or our stuff is merging. Let's put it that way, because yeah, what I make a distinction between consciousness and awareness as well, and I think Nisargadatta Maharaj did as well. Whereas most people just they they use consciousness and awareness in the same,
Interchangeably.
yeah,
Yeah.
interchangeable, where I don't think it is. I think
No, 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 it's not.
consciousness is the content of awareness, right?
Exactly.
But so you can have awareness without consciousness,
Of
but
course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there is a middle thing between these two. Like you have awareness and you have awareness, let's call it, when awareness is completely still, that's what we can call awareness. And then you have consciousness, which is awareness in
Of
motion.
something.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Of something or in motion. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Of something to be much more, like, let's say, relatable.
Yeah.
Uh, but in between, I think there is this, how can I call that? It's like a script, a blueprint.
Yeah, the mechanism. So you're searching for a mechanism through which that takes place, right?
Because it feels like
I'm not sure if there is an intermediary though. Like,
no,
I
it feels like there
don't know
is.
if you're trying to dissect this finer than it needs to be, right?
Okay, yeah, I get what you
Maybe.
mean, but like we are standing here, let's say, yeah, and this physical construct, the way it looks in a certain way. The light, let's say, operates in a certain way. It has some wavelengths to it. The human eyes can perceive the light in some bandwidth. There is some seems to be some setups in which consciousness, some patterns, let's call them, in which consciousness displays itself for our awareness at this moment. So there is this like intuitive knowing that there could have been any other way as well, any other content as well. So it's just content, it doesn't matter in a way. In patterns, not necessarily in this type of pattern, like now. So it's like, yeah, it's like consciousness, it moves awareness in certain patterns, and we are basically viewing a certain pattern of consciousness right now, but there could have been completely other patterns. So I feel there is a certain force, which I called it will, but I don't know if that's the best term, which takes awareness from that place of stillness and shapes it in patterns, and then we have the structure of consciousness here. So why I'm saying this is because um, I feel these patterns somehow, when I said like things are alive and things like that, I think they, why this physical realm seems so like um, immersive, and why does it capture our attention so much, and why we identify with it so much, is because there are these patterns, let's call them, that capture our awareness in the things around. Awareness is captured in object, in anything, and it remains somehow stuck in these patterns of motion somehow. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know.
See, I think again, I think you're trying to figure out the why. Like you've figured out that there's stillness, right? There's the
Yeah,
absolute, that is stillness.
yeah.
But why the fuck would it ever want to move? Like that's basically why what you're trying to figure out, right?
No, it's
Like
like why the
I
fuck?
think you're really trying to figure out the why. And I don't know if there needs to be a why, because I think that the analogy that it's a game and it's for the entertainment of the divine is good enough.
Hmm.
Don't you think that's good enough?
It's yeah.
Like
No, like
you can't get to a perfect metaphor, right? There's no such thing as this is exactly what's happening down to every single minute little detail, right? So I think you need to just stick with more of the gross model of that
yeah.
there's stillness
Mhm.
and there's movement, and why there's movement is because we ultimately we don't fucking know. We just got to say I don't know.
Yeah, we
Like,
don't know.
but I think it's just for entertainment purposes, right? Like it's just awareness coming back onto itself, and where it's coming back onto itself, that makes an interference pattern, which is everything, which is all experience. So why does it come back onto itself? It's kind of ridiculous to even ask that question, isn't it?
You know why I say this? Because many times even in these last years, when I would stay in this state of pure stillness, I realized that, oh, so when I get to this deep, 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 really still place, oh my God, man, like I feel like movement is such a pain. Like it bothers me. Really,
No,
it
I
bothers.
get it. That's like Ramana called this realm, what was it? I can't remember what he said, but it was like a limiting, like he didn't really dig this realm either. Like it's kind of an annoyance almost.
Yeah, it's like something, like it's
Like,
like that. Something like a bee or a mosquito in the room. Like
yeah,
zzz.
mosquito in the room when you're trying to sleep. Yeah, that's it.
It's like you're there. You're perfectly fine, and then
Yeah,
like things appear, and
yeah.
like I'm telling you, it has to be like I personally think that, man, it has to be an answer. Like no, honestly now, like what I feel is like we need like there needs to be somehow a consciousness. That's not the best word, but an awareness of somehow the stillness and the movement together. We like I personally think for myself that there needs to be understood like these two things, what freaking creates the movement and what the freaking is, okay, this place of trueness, stillness, and that like is like two things from a machine. But basically this is how I see them. It's like a machine having two
No,
things.
but the stillness has no like there is no side to the stillness, right? So the movement has another
Yeah,
side. The sides
yeah,
of the movement are thought and the physical realm, right? You see that, right? Like the movement requires the duality. So the sides of the movement are physical and mental, mind and body, but the absolute isn't part of that equation. And I think that you keep trying to include it in the equation. You see what I mean? It's the
mhm.
source of the system is not included in the system. It's a one-way street.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why in one of your videos, you were talking about the yin and the yang, and you were attributing the yang more to the stillness. But that's not exactly accurate because the yang is part of the motion, right? The motion, it
Yeah.
needs the yin and the yang
Mm,
against each other, but the absolute, which is the Tao,
yeah,
isn't part of that system, right?
yeah,
It's a one-way street. It's a
yeah,
mirror where
yeah,
the mirror reflection is dependent upon that's what looking into the mirror, but that's what is looking into the mirror is not dependent upon the reflection.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And in that, I don't know if I can call it a model, but in that, how I portrayed it there, it's like you would look into the mirror and there would be two mirrors. Like one would reflect you faithfully and one would distort
Yeah.
you. And
Well,
the
that's another. I kept cutting you off because it's so brilliant. Because I've used that analogy before. Is that the physical realm, in a way, could be described as the original mirror, right? Reflecting like Atman, reflecting Brahman perfectly. And then what we do is when we realize that this mirror image isn't real, right? Like isn't us. Like I am not the body, right? But I don't know who I am yet, then it creates another mirror. All you can do is create another mirror to reflect the reflection. So now you're reflecting, the thoughts are reflecting the mirror image, which is the physical realm. So now you've got two mirrors facing each other. And what does that produce? Well, it produces infinite mirrors, right? A mirror facing a mirror produces infinite redundancy, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
So now
it,
that's where we're lost. We're lost in these mirror realms.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Yeah, because you need a mirror that is like holds that true image, that faithful representation still, and then another mirror that distorts it, and then together they can freaking create, like
Yeah,
infinite
it
images.
creates infinite realms. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly what it's doing. Yeah. But that
Yeah.
which is looking into the mirror, right, is not part of that mirror realm, neither of those mirror realms. And what's looking into the mirror, and this is the icing on the cake, what's looking into the mirror is nothing. Right? It's potential, it's the Tao, right? So
Yeah,
it's
see,
that which cannot be described.
the way I described nothing after I realized that, okay, it's not nothing, but for us here, it's nothing. The way I can describe it is like, think about a video game, let's say any video game like Need for Speed, or I haven't played so many video games, so I don't know. But I don't know, a video game, let's say Grand Theft Auto.
I think reality is getting more like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So let's say Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
If, let's say, we would imagine being in the Grand Theft Auto right there, like we would be one of the characters there, and that would be our entire world, the world within the Grand Theft Auto, and we would know everything that happens there. And now try to explain to a character there what this reality is, because for that character there, it would be, this reality would be like nothing that could.
They couldn't
But
comprehend it at all.
here, this reality is not nothing. Here, it's comprehensible. Here, it's. But there, for that character there, it would seem like something impossible to imagine, impossible to depict. Like you couldn't translate how this reality here is, and you couldn't speak about this. But this does not mean that this is nothing. So in the same way, I perceive that nothingness. I perceive it like, from, for us here, it appears like nothing. But when I'm there, it's, what the heck? It's like freaking real. It's, I don't know how to explain it because my mind can't understand it. But I know it's something completely real. It's not like, oh, I'm this blob of, I don't know, infinite whatever. No, I personally feel like something really real and solid. I don't know how to say it, but it's something so different, so that here it would appear like nothing. This is how I can.
But the problem is that we think that thought is the ultimate authority, but so we think that nothing that can be described is actually nothing, but it's actually just nothing that can be described, right? So we've got it mixed up. We think that thought, again, is the final authority. So if it can't be described, then it can't exist, which is nonsense. Just because you can't describe something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? So nothing actually is nothing that can be described.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we should probably do this again sometime rather than going on for like another 18 hours.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how much time it passed. I feel like 2 hours.
It's been close, 1 3/4, relatively speaking.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So, sure.
Yeah, that's great. I had a feeling that this would be very productive, and it turned out it was. It was great to share with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I would enjoy talking again, for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I think we can both agree that this was a success and that we could both post it, hey?
I have no idea if it was, but
I think it was pretty successful. And if you post it and watch it later, you'll go, that's good stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay.
All right. Well, it was great talking with you, Denisa.
Yeah, the same. Or we'll chat again then.
We will. Okay. Bye-bye.